Welcome to today's class. In this lesson, you will be learning about modal forms, and by the end of this class, you should be able to list the modal forms, give examples of the modal forms, give the direct and indirect forms of modals with your own examples. From our previous lessons, you must have learned how important verbs are, given that they help us express the occurrence of an action or event. In the same vein, in order to give a detailed explanation of the function of a verb, special auxiliary verbs called modal forms are used. Modal forms are special auxiliary verbs that are used to express ideas, such as permission, ability, obligation, prohibition, advice, possibility, and probability. There are several types and variations of modal forms. Let's take a look at them and some examples of their usage. 1. Can. This modal form is used to express ideas such as capability, request, or permission. For example, Bola can lift the log. 2. Could. This modal form expresses possibility, past ability, as well as suggestions and requests. For example, could you lend me your pen, please? 3. Should. This modal form is commonly used to give recommendation or advice. It could also be used to talk about obligation as well as expectation. For example, you should know better than write like this, Ayo. 4. Ought to. This modal form is used to advise or make recommendations. It can also express assumptions, expectation, or strong possibility when the context implies that something is deserved. For example, Tina ought to prepare for her math tests. 5. May. This modal form is most commonly used to express possibility. It can also be used to give or ask for permission. For example, Sir, may I leave now? 6. Might. This modal form is commonly used to indicate possibility. However, it can also be used to make suggestions or requests. For example, the principal might attend the presentation. 7. Would. This modal form is commonly used to create conditional verb tenses. In addition, it can be used to make offers, requests, and talk about past habits. For example, would you like a cup of tea? 8. Must. This modal form can be used to talk about certainty, that is, something you are almost sure is true. It can also be used to talk about obligation, prohibition, necessity, or a strong recommendation. For example, you must be present at the presentation. 9. Shall. This modal form indicates future action. It is more commonly used with the first person singular and plural, I and we, often found in suggestions, promises, or predestinations. For example, we shall be present at the event. 10. Will. This modal form indicates future action. It is more commonly used with the first person singular and plural, I and we, often found in suggestion, promises, or predestinations. For example, I will take care of the baby. Now, aside from the different forms of modals we've looked at, you would notice that while some of the examples give exact and direct instructions, others gave instructions in an indirect, reported speech way. Therefore, we have the option of using all forms of modules in two ways. 1. Direct use of modules. This is the use of modules in direct speech sentence. And 2. Indirect use of modules. This is the use of modules in direct, reported speech sentences. Let's take a look at some examples of direct and indirect use of modules. Example 1. Direct speech use of module. He said I can speak 5 languages. Indirect use of module. He said that he could speak 5 languages. Did you notice how can changes to could in order to switch from direct to indirect use of modules? Let's take a look at another example. Example 2. Direct speech use of module. She said I may buy a new TV on Monday. Indirect speech use of module. She told me that she might buy a new TV on Monday. Again, did you notice how may changes to might in order to switch from direct to indirect use of modules? Well, I bet you now understand what module forms are, and you would agree with me that some sentence you even make before this lesson is you making use of module forms. Kids, with that we've come to the end of our lesson on modal forms, their examples and how to use them directly or indirectly. See you in the next lesson.